Charlie Kirk is gone, and the reaction is anything but normal. Usually when a public figure passes, people find a way to show respect. But this time, the response is split right down the middle. Some are mourning, others are cheering. And believe it or not, one of the loudest names caught in this storm is Brittney Griner. Instead of sadness, she's glad. She isn't hiding it, and she isn't softening it. That reaction is shaking fans, athletes, and commentators everywhere. So, let's break down why Griner's reaction matters, why it feels like mockery, and how this has turned into one of the wildest culture clashes in sports. Charlie Kirk was never a quiet figure. He thrived on confrontation, taking sharp swings at the LGBTQ+ community and turning debates into personal battles. For his supporters, he was a fearless defender of their values. For his critics, he was a bully who picked fights with anyone who didn't fit his definition of what America should look like. And Brittney Griner? She was right at the center of his crosshairs. He ridiculed athletes like her, mocked the WNBA, and treated inclusivity as a threat. That's why his death isn't just news, it's fuel for division. On one side, fans honor him as a leader. On the other, people like Griner see it as the silencing of a critic who never gave them respect. She isn't mourning him, because why would she? From her point of view, his absence feels like relief. And that sharp divide sets the stage for everything that follows. Brittney Griner has always represented what Kirk spoke against. She's an openly lesbian star in the WNBA, a player whose identity became part of her public platform as much as her game. Kirk built a career on belittling people like her. He treated her league as irrelevant and her lifestyle as a cultural threat. So now that he's gone, Griner isn't offering sympathy. She's glad. She feels like one of her loudest hecklers has finally been escorted out of the arena. And here's the kicker: she doesn't care if people think that reaction is cold. Her very presence mocks his legacy. She doesn't need to shed tears for someone who never gave her a shred of respect. This isn't about grace or forgiveness for her. It's about finally watching a critic's voice fade away. That satisfaction, whether spoken or silent, cuts deep into Kirk's supporters, who expected unity in mourning, but instead found defiance. The divide in reactions has been explosive. Kirk's supporters are angry, demanding that everyone show respect now that he's gone. They argue that death should erase past grudges, but critics push back, saying mourning isn't automatic. Respect has to be earned in life, not given for free in death. And Brittney Griner, with her glad reaction, has become the symbol of that defiance. Fans who already disliked her now mock her even harder, pointing out her awkward interviews, her uneven play, and her tendency to make herself the center of attention. Yet her critics also admit this. Her blunt reaction has shifted the conversation. Instead of everyone talking about Kirk's legacy, people are now focused on her. And whether you agree with her or not, she's forced everyone to ask the uncomfortable question, do you really owe respect to someone who never respected you? For Griner, the answer is clear, and her gladness is fueling the fire. If there's one thing basketball teaches, it's that respect has to be earned. Drop 40 points in a playoff game, hit a clutch shot, or carry your team through adversity and you get respect. But respect isn't automatic. It's the same off the court. Kirk never earned respect from athletes like Griner. He mocked her lifestyle, dismissed her league, and turned her name into a punchline. So, when he died, she reacted the same way he treated her with mockery. She's glad he's gone. To her, this isn't about tradition or formality. It's about holding him to the same standard he held her to. If he refused to respect her life, she won't respect his death. That logic might anger his fans, but in the language of sports, it's consistent. You get out what you put in. And for Kirk, what he put in was bitterness, and now that's all he's receiving back. Brittney Griner isn't subtle, and she doesn't need to be. Her reaction to Kirk's passing is blunt. She's glad. She's not pretending. She's not dressing it up with carefully chosen words. She's mocking him even in death, just as he mocked her in life. The irony is sharp. The man who once laughed at her lifestyle is now being laughed at by her. And she's enjoying it. Some fans think this makes her look heartless. Others think it makes her honest. Either way, she's controlling the narrative. Instead of being forced to honor a man she never respected, she's flipping the script. She's the one in power now. The mockery might not win her new fans, but it's undeniable that her stance is loud. And the louder she is, the more it grates on Kirk's supporters, who can't stand seeing her stand tall in this moment. Kirk's death didn't just trigger reactions from individuals, it reignited the culture war. Conservatives rushed to call him a martyr, painting his death as a loss for their movement. Progressives, on the other hand, saw it as the end of a voice that constantly insulted them. And Brittney Griner became the perfect example of why this moment matters. Her gladness embodies the reaction of those who felt targeted by Kirk's words. It's not just her personal response, it's a reflection of a larger divide. She stands there as a symbol of defiance, refusing to give the respect his supporters demand. And the more they push back, the more her reaction feels like a final victory over someone who spent years mocking her. The clash is bigger than basketball, bigger than politics. It's about what respect really means and who deserves it. Here's the reality. Brittney Griner's glad reaction has made her impossible to ignore. Even people who usually dismiss the WNBA are talking about her now. And that drives Kirk's fans crazy. They wanted his legacy to shine in this moment, but instead it's her mockery that's dominating headlines and conversations. She's turned his death into her platform, using it to flip the power dynamic. For years, he got to laugh at her. Now she gets the last laugh, and that's what makes fans furious. They can't stand that she's making this about herself. But in a way, isn't that exactly what Kirk used to do? He thrived on making everything about him and his fight. Now Griner is playing the same game, and she's winning this round. The outrage from Kirk's supporters has been loud. They call Griner heartless, cruel, and ungrateful. They accuse her of crossing a line by celebrating his death. But Griner isn't backing down. She's doubling down, standing firm in her gladness. She doesn't see it as crossing a line, she sees it as telling the truth. For her, it's simple. Kirk disrespected her in life, and she's mocking him in death. That's the score she's keeping. And in her mind, that score is settled. The defiance is infuriating for his base, but it also exposes the cracks in their argument. They want to demand respect from someone who never received it from him. And Griner's refusal to play along is the boldest rejection of that expectation. Brittney Griner's reaction hasn't just sparked debate about Charlie Kirk. It's dragged the entire WNBA back into the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Let's be real, the league already struggles for respect, constantly fighting the label of being irrelevant compared to the NBA. And now its most visible player isn't being talked about for basketball dominance, but for openly mocking the death of a political figure. Supporters of Kirk are pointing at her and saying, "See? This is why the league is a joke. This is why nobody takes it seriously." And in a way, they've got ammo. Because instead of letting the moment pass quietly, Griner seems almost proud to rub it in. She's glad, she's smug, and she's flaunting it like she just scored the game winner when in reality, she hasn't won anything. That's the mockery of it all. Griner acts like she's some cultural champion, but half the time she can't even carry her team to relevance. She's awkward in interviews, constantly fumbling her words, and yet she wants the world to believe her reaction defines an entire movement. It doesn't. It just makes her look petty. And the WNBA, which desperately tries to sell itself as a league of role models, now has its biggest name turning a man's death into a personal victory lap. For fans already skeptical about the league, this is confirmation of every criticism they've ever had. Griner didn't lift the WNBA with her reaction, she sunk it deeper into ridicule. And the craziest part, she doesn't care one bit. So where does this leave us? Charlie Kirk is gone, and Brittney Griner is glad about it. She isn't pretending, she isn't softening her stance, and she isn't mourning. She's mocking him, and that mockery has become the symbol of this divide. For some, her reaction proves she's cruel.